6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Woo! All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 141 of the Magic Guys. I am in a hotel, so I don't have my mug with me. Damn, but Nick's got his representing. Doug, how you doing?
I'm good, but I'm drinking plastic. I'm a scrub. I'm over here now. I'm here for this.
Doug.
It's been a busy day.
Down below, we got Plastic Doug. To my left, we got Nick K.
Welcome to the show, friends.
Yes. All right, we're all here. We're all here to have some fun. I'm so happy that I found this microphone that I used to send to guests, but I was like, I should get one myself because when I'm not at home, but Nick's one is a little better. But I'm in a hotel room right now.
What are you rocking there? What is that thing?
It's just a little Rode.
It's a Rode product?
USB Mini. Yeah.
Yeah.
And straight after this, I'm going to be catching up with our friend from the podcast, Dominic Miles.
Say hi to Dominic. I'll see him tomorrow.
I'm finally in his city, so we're going to catch up. But
wonderful.
You guys are all here because you know we have a wonderful guest today. Nick, you've actually watched some of his work outside of the social pipes, correct?
You guys, it's super rare that I am starstruck when I meet magic folk. And I think that Kevin was a little taken back himself. I was a bit like, prior to the show, he was there and I'm like, you're the guy that did the thing. And I love you. And he was like, you're weird. And I'm like, sorry. And so I had to calm myself down ever so slightly because you guys, today's guest, I feel produced one of the best virtual magic shows that I'd ever seen in my life. And I was totally enamored by how wonderfully creative and how genius this was. And I implore you, if you haven't seen it, make sure you do. And I'm sure that Kevin will be kind enough to tell us all about it. So please join me in welcoming our wonderful guest today, the amazing Kevin Blake.
Let's go.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Blake.
Kevin got a new intro tune. I like that too, man.
I'm here. That was incredible. Can I get a recording of that to play before
it should be on the internet for posterity or something.
Absolutely. Kevin, how are you today? Where are you? And what's happening in your life?
Oh, wow. That's a series of deep and long questions. And I'll take the next 15 minutes to answer them if that's okay.
Maybe start with who the hell are you? And tell us who the hell you are.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Blake. I'm a magician, mentalist, mind reader extraordinaire, self-proclaimed. And I've said that before many times in the intro to my virtual event. That's why it comes out so easily. I am in San Francisco, California. And what's going on? I'm kind of tired, but excited to be here. I'm tired because I have a newborn at home. I got a 5-week-old in the other room. My wife and mother are hanging out with him right now. And yeah, I'm a magician. I'm doing shows. I'm doing gigs just like all you guys.
Well, I wouldn't say like the rest of us because the caliber of shows that you produce.
I think I'm taller.
What is a gig for you? Like, just like us, but you're a mind reader, special mentalist, super extraordinaire.
Exactly.
But what's the gig? You work in the Sunday brunch at Denny's?
Yeah. Not anything kicked me out. I kept trying to sneak grand slams out the back door.
I'm here for the shift meal.
Yeah, exactly. No, I do. As Nick mentioned, I did a virtual show, and I didn't do many public virtual shows, but I did a one show for Vanishing Ink, their Showtime series that they did back during the pandemic. They were kind of highlighting virtual events during that time. And the virtual event was a huge success. It's funny when Nick mentioned he saw it because I didn't think that anyone saw it. And I haven't met anyone who saw it apart from, like my family who were there and a few magicians who showed up that I knew. But yeah, I did a lot of virtual events during the pandemic. The project I'm working on right now, and I've been doing for the past couple of years, is I do a live show here in San Francisco, Wednesday through Saturday. It's called The Illusionist at the Palace Theater. It's a 2-act 45-minute act, 45-minute act, one-man magic and mentalism show in a beautiful cabaret theater.
Yum, yum.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
90 minutes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people does that hold? In this
120 people.
Baby.
That's a
Wow.
5 nights a week?
No, 4 nights a week.
Four nights.
Wednesday through Saturday. Yeah, occasionally we'll do a Sunday matinee, but mostly just Wednesday through Saturday.
And how does that come about? Where, like, how do you find such a beautiful theater? If you guys haven't looked it up, have a look at the Palace Theater in San Francisco. Just Google it. It looks amazing.
I'm doing that now.
Yeah, you can just SanFranciscoMagicShow.com is the best way to find it.
There we go.
But
Promo
I
that.
know.
Yeah.
It took me a
Nice.
long time to get that domain, I'll tell you. But I eventually got it. To the chagrin of many of my San Francisco magician friends. Anyway, so that theater, which is the same theater I did the virtual event from during the pandemic that the venue was closed. I had made a good friendship with the guys who run the space, and they were like, a week into the pandemic, they were like, "Hey, Kevin, you could use the space if you want to rehearse or whatever. Like, I'm pretty sure your shows are going to come back in a few weeks." And I was like, "Okay." So then I just started doing virtual events from there. Yeah.
So just going off that virtual show that you did, for those who haven't seen it, like, I implore you, if you're looking to see a show from the comfort of your home that is better than any show you would see, sitting in seats, maybe to the exclusion of obviously the Theatre of Magic there in Brisbane that just opened up last week. It was this remarkable show in which you do each act in a separate room of the theater. So it's like a wonderful tour through this theater that was kind of great, because you have this opportunity to not only see this truly amazing magic, but experience this beautiful theater from the comfort of your own home. And I was so curious how you were able to achieve that, because was there cables running right through this theater? Like, did you have separate cameras in each one, or did you just primitively run it off a wireless? Tell us.
I mean, the show started with just one camera, on the stage, and I was just sitting on the stage with the curtains behind me and just doing that from there with the actual theater lights on me. And then I thought it'd be so cool because the venue that I perform in is so cool. It's got all these different rooms and the shots on the screen are the website. They're mostly just the stage of my live show, but I started there doing the show just on that stage. But the rooms of the venue, it has 2 bars, it has a casino room, with some craps tables and stuff like that. The entrance of it is like this old sort of fake, clock shop. And so I tried to theme some of the magic around those rooms. And then, 7 months into the pandemic, I had stringed Ethernet cable through the ceilings of the entire venue and bought 5 cameras, 5 Sony cameras. And I connected all the powers, and it was all running through Ethernet. And I didn't have any staff or anyone to do the shows with me. A lot of magicians, I think they were stuck because they needed someone to run their events with them.
Was this solo?
And it was all solo.
What?
I'd walk
5
in,
cameras, different rooms, solo?
I had this app that I downloaded off some weird forum for camera TV presenter people.
Yeah.
That allowed me to switch it remotely.
Yeah.
And I had these pre-recorded videos that would basically bring me from room to room. So I'd imagine like me going to grab the camera, and then it would sort of switch imperceptibly to the pre-recorded video, and then it would just switch over as I walked back into the frame. So I mean, you would get that it was pre-recorded probably, but it was seamless enough, and it did allow me to make something that was just way more rich than in texture than just me here, which is how I do. I don't have the theater anymore because I'm doing the shows in there, and they kicked me out. They said I can't have the entire venue to myself all day.
Those damn wires out of our ceiling.
Without paying rent. The wires are still there. They're still.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, one thing I love that you made mention was that you tried to theme it with the certain rooms within the venue, which is really great, because Nate Staniforth, who you've worked with in the past, also I've done his magic course, and I've set up a lovely friendship with him myself, and I adore his work as well. And I really love this idea of like doing magic that's indigenous to your location, or using things around you. Could you explain that thought process, like with regards to the clocks and
yeah. I mean, it's like it's really simple, and I think it goes both ways. The environment can inspire the magic. So, it's very obvious to do, I would do uh, uh, like a prediction watch effect, in the clock shop room, which just makes perfect sense in a room filled with clocks. And tell a story about about coincidence. And so just being able to put that, it's just different. And now I do that same act on stage in a different way. But having, being able to create a theater around it, it almost made it feel like the venue was built for the virtual show, which is, I think, why it seems so outstanding to you, is because it just is like, this guy build a whole venue for a virtual show. There's 5 rooms and everything is built with like a scenic backdrop that is professionally made because it was for a different thing, for a different
so cool.
experience. But
And sorry, go on.
I'm curious if this show is the seed for the current stage offering you have, or if this kind of...
Is it ask the question again?
So the show that you're doing currently, this 90-minute experience, was the virtual show the seed to this current offering?
So I'll tell you that the best thing that ever happened to me as a performer was being able to get stage time at the desk.
Getting those reps in, right?
Getting in reps in virtual show, it is real reps, and the easiest reps ever.
Yeah, you don't got to travel, right?
No travel. You can do 10 a day. And if the reaction is poor because you sucked at that trick, doesn't matter. The audience was so, their bar was so low that it was so easy to surpass it, which is what's so tough. When you want to be a professional, you want to go do big things. If you don't pass the bar, it's so obvious. But getting in reps of easy, of stuff like, like 3 or 4 of the acts that eventually went into my stage show were stuff that I built in virtual, and then I just made bigger in the stage. And that way I started my show and I had already done this act 500 times. Even though the show's launching, it also just takes a lot of weight off your shoulders when the act is going to be good.
Were there any challenges going from like this dynamic environment where you were able to walk from room to room, then to go into a static environment where you had just the one stage? Were there any challenges in that?
I'll tell you, it was just because I didn't get my start in virtual. I had been doing theater shows. It felt a little bit more like going back home than it was, than that. I wouldn't say there's a challenge bringing it back, but definitely trying to there's a whole challenge of making a show engaging from start to finish. That was easier in virtual because there were so many limitations. And the performer has so much power within frame and within, there's so many limitations, but there's also so much power that you could have with the methods that you could use in those ways, that it was so every virtual show is like so easy at the end of the day, for me anyway, because the methods were just so ironclad, whether it was just sleight of hand ones or frame ones or whatever, misdirection.
So when writing these shows, I'm sort of curious because you're doing 2 sets, and I've always wondered, like, what do you ever think about what they're going to experience with regards to taking a short break in between 2 sets? Do you feel like they come back more refreshed? They come back starting? Is it kind of like starting over again? Do you have ways to combat that? Like, what's your thought?
So my live show now, which we've been doing for 2 years, is a 2-act show. We take a 15-minute intermission, and it was definitely interesting to me going from a position of thinking I never want an intermission and I never want to show more than 70 minutes to be in a place where I think it's like really great to give an audience a whole evening of entertainment. And it was refreshing to me having 45 minutes, basically almost not done anything, 45 minutes goes over so fast on stage, and then having a break and just getting like 15 minutes to just chill out, reset, put a few different things in different pockets, and go back out on stage. It does mean that you have to have 2 finales and sort of 2 openers. But for me, I just spent enough time thinking about what those acts would be that by the time that the show was going, I was, at least a few months in, I was happy with how it set up. I don't know if that fully answered your question, but.
That's great. And I have a question. Does your rapping abilities appear in your show as well as from Fool Us?
So I did a Fool Us taping, and I did a card trick rap, which was a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I along with literally every other person in America was like inspired by Hamilton, and I was just sitting there with a little beat maker, and I just started making rhymes like 7 years ago, and so yes, the answer is yes. I did the rap from the Fool Us act as the closing bit of the first act of my live show during the first season of my live show. I didn't mention this, but we're in sort of season 2 of the live show of the Illusionist Palace Theater. And so I changed all the acts except for a question and answer act in the middle. Oh God, you're going to bring this up? We don't.
That's you, really? I don't think I have the sound up here, but look at it.
So this is 4 years ago, I think. When I was watching it.
So I didn't turn the sound up. I thought I'm sorry I interrupted, but I am putting the multimedia on the screen for those watching at home.
They don't tell you what the backdrop is going to be until you walk out, right? Or you would think that they don't care. They assume people don't care. But I walk out and I see there's this humongous sort of like Chevy that's about to run me over, and I was just like. I'm sitting here being like, want to be sort of Mr. Classy surprise magician, and then the episode title is Penn and Teller hit the streets, and I'm like the street rapper magician. So funny, but
I love nothing more than white guys rapping. I mean, you should meet our friend. We have a friend in Australia called Adam Axford, who we've had on as a guest.
Yeah,
he's another wordsmith that loves to actively
I'm thinking you just book rappers. Everyone on here is beatboxing or rapping, and Nick's been in a band, so
you talk to any white guy, they have a rap in their back pocket that they won't bring it out. If you're under maybe 40 or 35, maybe under 33, my age, I think everyone's got a rap in their back pocket. You just have to. You've written one. Just like every guy I know has a note in their phone with stand-up comedy ideas. Even if they're not funny, even if they are not a comedian or an entertainer, I swear everyone I know has a note in their note.
I wrote heavy metal songs, for the record. I was a headbanger, so just so you know.
Well, to each their own. I love it.
I think we're probably going to need to do it like a karaoke night at Magic Live at some point, just to get all this musical talent out. I think that'll be hilarious.
Yeah, Shin Lim could be the finale on the keys.
Oh yeah, that guy on keys is dope.
That's got to happen.
Yeah.
So some of the folks here are asking, Gavin, like our good friend John and Tim here, they're asking like, where did the itch in Magic first start, and how did you get started in Magic? How did
National anthem of Magic questions.
Yeah, no, it's the classic question. And I got started in Magic when I was a kid, like many other people. I just got a Magic set. I saw it's at this point it's such a blur of inspirations. But
what are you now, 22 or 23? How old are you?
21. No, I'm 33. And the things that I remember are going to Disneyland and going into the magic shop. It was like seeing the David Blaine Street Magic special on ABC. It was I found these David Copperfield VHS tapes in my house as a kid when we moved in, and I watched those, saw him do Misled, and I was just like, what? And so I think all those types of things, and then finding a deck of cards and just finding it interesting to learn how to fool your classmates. Really, the story continues.
Wait, talk about this Copperfield VHS. What is that? Like something someone purchased for their home, or they recorded the shows?
Someone had recorded the shows on their own VHS tapes that they had taped over. It was the person who lived in the house before my parents moved in. They had left him in the cabinet, in the sort of living room area.
That was former you in another time, making sure your destiny was well laid.
Yeah, you're right. There's definitely some time travel involved, or maybe that woman was related to me.
Just nice to know I wasn't the only one recording them, because I did. I would take the videos to school where I was an editor, and I'd watch them frame by frame.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine not having the ability to do that? I mean, I remember the first I was like 12 or something when Illusionist started to come out, and I would watch those trailers frame by frame.
Yep.
I mean, that's how I learned to do whatever this one's called, this little thing.
Oh, yeah, the Downs palm.
Yeah. And I remember watching that trailer thinking, where does it come from? And then it just clicked. Me, 12 years old, thinking I was a genius.
Yeah.
I was. Should have just bought Bobos, but I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
This is the way now. This is the way.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of interesting, and we've had a lot of conversations back and forth about, the influence of the YouTube and the internet on magic. But like, if it wasn't for things like Illusionist and watching trailers to influence us to think a certain way, like, do you think that is? I mean, as a magic creator yourself now, do you think that it's like a good thing or a bad thing that magic is being put out there in a more learning capacity now? Because we're sort of very much pro learning magic.
Here's my take. I don't know if it's a hot take or any take at all, but this is my take. It doesn't matter much. It depends. I guess it certainly depends on what your audience is. But if you're coming from like my perspective, where I'm doing shows for audiences, the public, going on date nights, that kind of thing. Very rarely do you have someone who has seen magic content online. They are always just trying to have a good night out, and they think that, oh, that'd be fun. Haven't done that before. And they love it. And then you also get the people who are obsessed with magic, who do watch the magic content, and they're interested in it in a different way. And so, if you're a creator who creates magic, or you're worried about exposure or something like that, on a professional level, I find it to be very irrelevant. And for the amount of audience that it brings into the craft, it's probably helpful for even the people who are making content worried about exposure, because half of their audience is probably magicians who are like trying to figure stuff out or just like magic. So that's my guess, but
when writing your shows, do you have that at the forefront of your mind? Are you in this mindset where it's like, I got to do something that's going to impress the magicians? Because I'm kind of anti that. Like, even in my lecture, the first thing I say to people is like, don't worry about trying to impress magicians. They're not going to hire you. Screw them.
I will say this. Wanting to impress magicians will push you to do different material than everyone else. So there's sort of like a feeling where if magicians are going to come to your show and you care about their opinions, you're going to want to do stuff that they can't. I don't know if you can curse on this, but you're going to want to do shit that they can't explain and that they haven't seen before a million times.
I think as well. What do you think, Kevin? I think magicians are the ones that are going to talk about your show and spread the word the most if you do have stuff that is interesting to them. Like, how many of us have told all the magicians we know about Derek DelGaudio's show, for example?
Straight up. I mean, I flew all the way from Oz to New York just to see it, to see it,
And even Steve Cohen's Chamber of Magic in New York. The only reason I know about that show is from 3 different magicians in Australia who traveled there and come back and said, it's the best magic show I'd ever seen. So on my 30th birthday, I flew there to see it. And that was from magicians telling me to see it.
Yeah.
So
I make a point to share every magic show that comes in the area. If something's in a public theater in New Orleans and I'm aware of it, I try to make everyone aware that it's here, to give, whether I'm going or not, I share the event to put the eyes on it. I would hope other enthusiasts would do the same.
Yeah, I think especially when you see something extraordinary and that you can't explain, it hits magicians way harder than it hits a lay audience. So like, lay audience they don't understand anything. If a magician doesn't understand it or it fools you, it's crazy. And then you gotta see this. I've never seen anything before it in my life. Yeah.
And what about you described your Instagram success very interestingly earlier. I was saying to Kevin, because you guys know my struggle of putting up videos and slowly, people are starting to watch it. But Kevin, how did you come to get your whatever?
It's sort of a funny story. So I have around 20K followers right now on Instagram. And 2 months ago, I had 3,000 followers or 3,500 followers. Wow. And I haven't posted in a month. I haven't posted in 5 weeks since my kid was born. I've made like 10 videos or 11 videos, something like that. The reason I started making videos is because an agent, an entertainment lawyer came to my show and said, "You're insanely good. You don't have representation. You need to be doing gigs that are humongous. you need to be making like $1 million a year, and I can help you with that. And I was like, huh? Clearly you're crazy. But I love it. I love the support. And so he's like, let me get you in touch with an agent. And he basically gave me a conversation with someone from, now I can't even remember the agency, but it's like the biggest agency in Hollywood. People represent like David Blaine and stuff like that. So I have this conversation with this woman, and she's like, so what's your social about, you know? And I was like, nothing, and I don't care about it. And she's like, okay, well, cool. So listen, social is everything. And it doesn't matter how good you are or how good your show is. If you don't have an audience that follows you around, you know, it's, you know, I would say it's very unlikely. But, you know, this guy says good things about you, so I think it's good. Then I started posting videos. The second video I posted got like, I don't know, 2 million views on TikTok and like maybe 1 million on Instagram. And I posted a few more videos kind of every week or even a few times a week. And then just the social media, you know, just caught the algorithm, I guess. Yeah. But the funny thing that I was mentioning before the show that you mentioned is just that I'm not sure of its worth. I'm uncertain as to the turnover value of anything into like money or gigs or business or tickets to the show or whatever, but it's a long road.
It's got to help. I mean,
how do you market the show?
Can't hurt. So that's a good question, Doug. We market the show almost exclusively through word of mouth and hundreds of dollars of Instagram a day.
Instagram ads, eh?
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Facebook advertising?
Marketing department, me, and we had some great people film the show and take photos, but doesn't hurt that the venue's beautiful. And one thing that I do want to talk about is if anyone's looking to do a show like mine or like anyone's like Steve Cohen's or you know, Dan White was doing it in New York. I think you might be back doing it. Those are the direct inspirations for me doing this show. And the thing that for me was different, and much like Chamber Magic isn't called Steve Cohen Live. You know, Dan White, it's not Dan White show. It's the Magician at the Nomad, you know? And so I was like, if I want to create an experience that can last, that people don't care about me. They don't. They want to have an experience that blows them away, regardless of the magician. They could care less. In the real world, they could care less. And so if I take my ego out of that and to also take my name out of it, people buy it way more. Doesn't matter who the illusionist is. You know, I've had my friends fill in for me. And so I can also have the Illusionist presents my buddy David, who's incredible, and do his show. And I think that's one of the key reasons that I was able to turn an idea into 170 or so shows over 2 years, selling out most of the nights. Because it's not about me. It is afterwards, but before doesn't matter.
Have you considered the notion that your strong social media efforts could replace advertising? You know, you just post more videos on Instagram about your show, you location tag it.
Likely, and I could be wrong, but I think that's not likely because I think the audience that Instagram feed and the social media TikTok feed my videos to are a completely different audience than the audience that buys tickets to live events.
Okay.
That's my thing.
Right.
It's like, I think that these people who it's like every magician and person who plays poker and likes gambling in the world versus, you know, 22 to 40 to like 60-year-old people who want to go.
It might be worth experimenting using some hashtags and trying to niche down through location and even putting live theater and such in the hashtags for, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that I could probably do a video in the theater and use it as the ad for the show. But yeah.
But the targeted placed advertisements you have the faith in still.
Yeah. And I'll tell you,
I love that actually. I love hearing that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you the reason why I haven't felt the need to experiment with that kind of thing is because our marketing's working. And so there's not really a lot of incentive for me to like try to do other things.
Well, number one, you said is word of mouth. You do a good show, people talk about it. And if you start there and that's what you said first, and that's probably solving any problem that might have existed.
Yeah.
So.
But there's no doubt that impressions matter for ads. And when people see it a few times, they buy tickets more often. Even if they see the ad and then their friend says it, they're like, "Oh, I've heard about that. I should go."
All right.
So having the double sort of like hitting at you at multiple angles is definitely helpful.
Yeah, right. And you're advertising on TikTok as well?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I feel like we should take this to our gig story segment. We do a segment, Kevin, where we just reminisce and talk about a crazy moment that happened at a show or a gig, or anything that sort of comes to mind related to shows or hecklers or funny incidents or mishaps. So let me find that stinger. Let's go with some gig stories right now.
So Gig Stories is obviously the part of the show where we like to talk about moments of magic, whether it be through the groceries or doing our very own gigs, and we want to share them with our audience for posterity. Let's start with today's guest. Kevin, any cool gig stories or any fun moments that might have happened in your amazing gig show there in San Francisco?
Let's see. I mean, I'll tell you this. I'll start with this. I'm one of the lucky few who got stabbed with a nail.
Oh my!
Oh no!
I'm in good company with David Blaine and Darren Brown. There's a little tiny scar there.
Yeah, tell that story.
But it was my second ever show.
Oh.
I started doing live shows in college. I did one show when I senior year. I was like, I want to be Darren Brown. I'm going to do a live show. I'm going to be like him. And so I do a show in a theater, and it went great because my entire swim team was there, all of their friends. It was like the happiest, most supportive crowd of all time. I could have sucked, and I did, and they loved it. They were blown away, and they were laughing at every line, even if it was stupid and not funny. It was the easiest intro in Magic ever, and it also gave me. It was also very bad for me because the next show was completely different. Different crowd, same me, unfortunately. But that show, I was just drastically underprepared in like every way, and I was also super novice in Magic, so I didn't really know methods and things like that. I was just like coming up with them on my own. And so, how did I do it? Oh yeah, I was using a signal. My friend Brian was supposed to signal me.
Oh no! So you made up your own method for the stab effect.
Yeah, I mean, make up a method. I had my friend Brian signal me from the back.
Yeah,
he's like sitting like this.
Yeah,
or he's sitting like this. Or he's like sitting like this. And so Brian, may he rest in peace. His friendship died that day.
Yeah.
I told him, Brian, extremely important. Show up on time. Sit in the front. Because if you've done a show before, can't see past the first front 2 rows. The lights are too bright. You can't see shit past the first 2 rows. So I know he's got this down because we practiced a bunch of times. And so what does Brian do? Brian shows up late, gets high in the parking lot, sits in the back. So we're getting to that part of the show. The show has already like drastically gone off the rails in multiple ways. And Brian, I think I see Brian in the back like this. It was someone else. And I had 5 cups and I gotten down to the last 2. And so I get just by pure luck. And I hit the last one, and luckily it just, it went through halfway through the thumb. It sort of fell over. And luckily it wasn't in like a block of wood. I had literally like shoved a nail through a piece of cardboard shaped in a circle. I was that amateur.
Yeah.
And so it just bent straight over, went halfway through. I got a tetanus shot. My hand was a little bruised for a few days, but luckily it didn't go any worse than that.
Did you ever do it again?
Yeah. Multiple times.
Fantastic.
Really?
A better method.
Is it in the show still?
With a method. No, it wasn't. It was in a few shows of the first season, but then the show was too long, so we cut it.
Can you imagine if you had done it successfully, hadn't stabbed yourself, and then you found out that he never actually turned up, and he's like, "Sorry, man, I couldn't make it to your show," and then you're like, "How did I?"
But there's a moment, because I wasn't sure. I remember not being sure if it was the right one. I was like, I don't know if that's Brian or not, but I had to do it anyway. There's a point that every magician, if you've done stage performance, when the lights are on you and you got 100 people looking at you, you have to do something. You have to. What are you gonna do? And so you got to take a risk. You got to guess, or you got to figure it out. I mean, a few months ago, something went wrong methodologically in my live show for like a few minutes, and our backstage team is scrambling to like fix it. I'm very lucky in that I have like a backstage team who can help with the show that allows us to do a production quality that's like extremely high compared to most magic shows, because you can just do methods that, you know, types of methods that like the super pros are doing. Anyway, they're scrambling, and I'm sitting there like, if they don't fix this, I'm going to be absolutely screwed. I've set this trick up for the past like 15 minutes. Anyway, it got fixed, but it's just those moments where you're like, well, all of a sudden we're off the rails now, and we got to figure out how we're going to get back on, and we may not. Anyway,
what does your team consist of for a show like that? You have a couple of folks?
I think we still got our gig stories rolling on here.
Oh yeah. I'll answer that question after the other gig stories.
All right.
But I must say that's got to be like one of the best gig stories I think we've heard so far. That's pretty darn good. I'll make mine quick. So in Brisbane, we've just launched a weekly show called the Brisbane Theatre of Magic.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Last week, and it's a heritage building, really beautiful. It's in a cinema theatre, but the room itself is not a cinema. It's almost like a parlor room. Like, so it seats 36 people. It's in like a semicircle seating setup, and there's like really old school posters and paintings of old actors and stuff. It's really nicely set up. But last week we had our launch, and we had our media night where a publicist organized for all these influential people of our city to come and see the show. But what we didn't realize is like the demographic that would be turning up in terms of like the age. So we had said like family friendly, because we had talked about like maybe ages 12 and up. And this is something I'd love to talk to Kevin about as well. But because obviously teenagers, kids love magic, but, you know, we want to still keep it a nice night for date night, you know, audiences and stuff. So we are backstage, and so there's three of us doing this. So one magician is playing host and welcoming everyone in, and me and my friend Chris, we're in the back room, and we are in our heads prepared to do a show for adults, like all adults. And then all of a sudden we see the door open and a pram gets wheeled in, and the magician's like, I just got to store this here. By the way, get ready for a kid's show. And we're like, what? And we peek out, and it's every adult has brought like 2 or 3 kids with them. And so it still had the vibe we wanted, but it was just like more child heavy. So the show, like, it was a really fun experience, and everyone has like, you know, posted videos on it and talked about the show, and it's all good. But for that moment, Chris and I looked out and we're like, oh, okay. All right, I'm going to change this material. I'm going to change this. We're going to do this. Okay, fine. And then the last thing that, what was I going to say? So that happened. And then one thing we didn't think about is like, are we doing any similar methods to one another? Because what happens is there's a close-up show for 30 minutes. There's an interval. And then there's a stand-up parlor show for 45 minutes. So there's 2 different performers. And right before Chris goes out to do close-up, he mentions the DFB app. You don't have to say it this time, Doug, but we all know what we're talking about, right? The DFB app, right? Doug knows what it is, right? Okay, so
I thought I just wasn't supposed to talk about toxic.
You really made me want to just say the name when you do that over and over.
Yeah.
I just really had to suppress the urge to just name it.
Well, Doug's already said it a million times before, but I thought I'd try and control some of them. So I hear him mention that. Now, I also was going to use that, right, for part of my act. So now he goes out there, and I'm like, oh, okay. I've got 30 minutes to come up with a different method for like a wild choice of selections. So then I'm sitting, while he's doing the show, I'm sitting back here writing on 52 blank cards now. And then the method I pulled it off, and it was fine. But
I would suggest anyone using that DFB should consider a Svengali pad and keep it in your bag, just cause it's a good alternative. Maybe your phone battery dies.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good idea. Knowing that, and so in my head I'm like about thinking about my set, and then I just hear and mention it. So like you can imagine, you're just with whatever stuff you had brought to do the show. So I'm just sitting there going, oh no.
On press night.
On press night, yes. So I kicked the stroller out of the way, and I got to thinking, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get this double blank deck, and I'm gonna turn it into an index deck.
I can't believe you had a double blank deck in your bag. That's luck.
Well, that is luck. Yes. So yeah, that was my experience last week. It all went well, and there's some pretty fun things coming up with promoting of the show and stuff. But yeah, that was a wild opening night that I'll never forget. Nick, over to you, my friend.
I'm reminded of a story when you were talking about like finding good help when you're doing a show. And the best help I ever had was my friend Dave Donald, and his nickname was Pitley or Pit. And it's just one of those Cockney slang type things where like a cat took a shit in his bedroom and it smelled like the shit pit, and then it became like shit pit, and then became Pitt, and then it became Brad Pitt, and then it became Bradley, and it was just one of these long things. So then in the end, he became Mr. Pitley, and he just quit his job. He was miserable. He quit his job, so he was unemployed. And I was like, do you need to make a few bucks? And he was like, yeah. And I go, cool. Come be my stagehand in my show, do my lighting and sound. I've programmed everything because I have an audio and lighting background. I was like, you just got to do this stuff. We'll rehearse it. You'll be fine. He was like, cool. Can I wear a tux? I'm like, you can wear a tux. And he's like, can I? And he was like, yes. So he got so into it that he looked like a homeless person that I dressed up to be part of my show. And I gave him white gloves and everything. And he was so great, right? That, and the thing came, like he would come out and like announce me, but he had this beard and he just looked and smelled like a homeless person. And I thought, this is fantastic, right? So Mr. Pitley, and that was the joke. And I was like, so he gets up, works in my show, and at the end I give him a sandwich. For working in my show was the joke. And even like I had like a confab at the end in a box, and I would give him this sandwich. But this guy was such a hit because every show I get him a 6-pack, and he would just sit there pounding a 6-pack while doing the tech for my show. And I would make jokes and stuff, and he would just burst out laughing from the back of the room. And he was just such a mess that like, for the next 3 years I was doing this festival, everyone was asking, where's Mr. Pitley? So it's so great that when you have an opportunity to do that. So one of the things I like to do, especially when I'm doing corporates, I'll get up on stage, say my thing, and then go, oh, and please, a round of applause for my tech in the back. His name is Gavin. Everyone get it for Gavin. I go, Gavin's just a little nervous. He's going to miss some of my audio cues. I said, don't worry about it, mate. Everyone here is super lovely. If you make any mistakes, I'm sure they'll forgive you. So like everyone make him feel welcome. You okay? And then he'll miss a cue. And I'll go, it's okay. Look, it's his first time. Leave Gavin alone. You know what I mean? And I make it part of the show. So I just thought, not only is it a good story, maybe a little pro tip along the way as well. So, Mr. Pitley, we miss you. Come back and do a show.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Doug, what watermelon stories do you have for us?
I don't know. I talk about my gigs these days. What am I talking about? Doing magic on TikTok. So that's what I did for performing this week. I could say this though, when Kevin was talking about doing the virtual shows and getting the reps in, if you have an outlet to do live magic on social media, I would suggest that you could use this as your rehearsal time. Like there's different reasons to do magic for social media, but if you put yourself in the frame of mind that I'm going to present myself in at least a somewhat professional manner in front of an audience, now you're rehearsing your material at least and getting these reps in that we talked about earlier. So this is a good reason to do magic on TikTok or any social media platform you can get yourself onto, even if it's Omegle or Facebook Live or whatever it is. And so, yeah, that's where I performed this week. And that was one of the reasons why I'm like, I got a few tricks I got to, get some time in, put some reps into. And there's my gig story.
Heck yeah. Love that. Right. Kevin, do you happen to have a piece of magic you wanted to share with the viewers today?
I got a piece of magic I can share. If you want to see.
I know that feeling.
He doesn't want to, but he can. That's what we like to hear.
I'll show you something if you want.
Yes.
We would love that.
I'll show you something for my virtual show. How about that?
Cool.
Please.
Okay. Okay. I'll show you something. 3 rules though. Rule number 1. Well, it's sort of a pick a card trick. You guys like pick a card tricks?
Big
Love it.
fan.
And Nick, I don't actually know if you saw this one because I don't think this was in my virtual show at that time, or it might have been. So maybe Doug, you can help me out. I'm going to have you pick a card.
All right.
Doug, are you a skeptic or a believer?
Yeah, I'm both kind of, but let's go with skeptic. I'll be the skeptic here.
You'll be a skeptic. Skeptic. We'll see if we can turn you into a believer, Doug.
All right.
I'm a skeptic too. I think it's because I'm a magician, you know?
Yeah, right.
All right, here's the rule. Rule number 1, you can have any. Well, let me just make sure my camera works. Oh yeah, it does. Okay. You can have any any card in the deck, Doug.
Yeah, 4 diamonds.
Except for the Ace of Hearts.
Oh, okay.
Cannot have the Ace of Hearts. That's my favorite card. You can have any other card with the Ace of Hearts.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the.
Rule number 2, Doug.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you say goes. You want me to shuffle? I'll shuffle. You want me to cut? I'll cut. You want me to start over? We'll start over. Okay.
All
And
right.
rule number 3, Doug, if this still works, you're a believer. Doug, you ready?
Okay, I'm in.
You ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
Rule number 1, Doug, or at least step number 1, I'd like you to name a card. Pick any card in the deck, any card except for the Ace of Hearts. Any card. What card would you like?
6 of clubs.
I thought you said King of Diamonds.
Well, I'm saying 6 of clubs.
Any card except for the Ace of Hearts. 6 of clubs?
6 of clubs.
Oh, 6 of clubs. Okay. How many shuffles should I do with the deck here, Doug?
3.
3. Now, I know how to do a pretty good shuffle here. Check this out. Boom. There's 1 shuffle. Doug, you like that or no?
Yeah,
It was okay. Oh, you want me to do a real shuffle? Okay. Earlier, I was doing a fake shuffle.
you don't say.
You want to see the real shuffle, Doug? You're a skeptic, but is this a real shuffle or?
That's the real deal.
That's a real deal. Okay. How many shuffles? You said 3?
3.
Okay, 3. There's 1. Here's number 2. Real shuffle here. A little bit of a bottom block. You probably didn't like that. And 3. Maybe I'll do one of these ones. Boom. 3rd shuffle. Okay, Doug, are you happy?
That's fair.
Or at least satisfied?
Both of those.
So, okay. Do you want me to cut the deck or you're
Yep,
you're
I do.
satisfied? Cut the deck?
Always. Cut
Okay.
the deck.
Where should I cut it?
Thin to win. There.
Thin to win? Is that you said thin
Yep.
cut?
Mhm.
Okay. Bottom goes on top. Okay. Step number 3, Doug. Name any number between 1 and 52. And whatever number you name, Doug, that will be where your 6 of clubs is.
6.
6. Are you sure?
Positive.
Okay, make sure I count this right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that the 6th card there, Doug?
Yep.
Doug, instead of 6, do you want 7?
Nope.
Instead of 6, you want number 5?
Yes.
You want 5, okay. Instead of 5, you want 52?
I'm content with the 5th card.
5th card. Doug, you could have said any number. You said number 5. Well, you said 6, but then you said number 5. Could have said any card. You said the 6 of clubs, right?
Yep.
How
Correct.
you knew, Doug, that a number 5 was 1 card, not just any card, but your card. I have no idea. But the crazy thing, Doug, is not just that that's the 6 of clubs, but that you were so close to my favorite card, number 6. See, that's my favorite card. The Ace.
What?
But the very strange thing is, Doug, the very strange thing about this deck really is that number 4 and 7 and 3 and 1. The very strange thing about this deck is it's sort of filled with my favorite card, Doug, the Ace of Hearts. That's why it's my favorite deck.
Woo!
You're a skeptic, but tell me now, Doug, are you a believer now?
Oh yes. Wah, wah, wah.
Testify.
Oh my god! Everyone in the chat is just going crazy right
Chat
now.
is fire now.
Doug,
What
I'll,
just
I'll, I'll
happened?
send you the $20 for choosing that 6 of clubs, man.
Man.
After.
Yeah. Dylan says that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. David says mind blown. There's lots of clap emojis. John says fantastic.
Thanks,
Bro,
guys.
I've never been so hooked and invested in a card trick when you're like, do you want the 5th one or the 6th one or the 52nd one?
It made absolutely no sense that it was so clean after I switched.
Yeah.
What the hell just happened?
I'm so
Oh my
happy
God.
I switched, and then I'm even happier it was so clean.
So clean.
If you're
So fresh
listening
and
to
clean.
this, If you're listening to this on Spotify, go and watch this on YouTube.
Yeah, go watch it on YouTube.
It was a pure miracle, unfathomable piece of magic, only to be seen on video, not a radio trick.
Yeah, that
maybe that was a great trick. Wow.
Without going into it, is that something you developed for your virtual show?
Yeah.
Like you made for the show, or you were doing
made for the
capacity?
Made for the show, yes. And something that is, just had a nice structure, and it's it's just another any card, any number trick, but yeah, something that I could do over and over with no assistance and with no no special whatever. No crazy, absurd sleight of hand, all sorts of stuff that I wanted to have to make sure that it was actually every time.
God damn.
It's funny, when I was in school, I used to crack Paul Harris books. Dylan Young's watching Magic live on the internet in school. I love that.
This is a lecture. We can call that.
Man, that was so good. Curious, do you do any virtual work these days? Is there any call for that in your universe still?
Yeah, I do maybe like one every week or two.
Oh, okay.
And I was lucky, very lucky, extremely lucky. But I was sort of like there are all these startups that were virtual events companies that were trying to basically build a virtual event platform,
right,
for magicians. Maybe you guys joined them. Yeah, I joined two of them in the United States, probably different platforms, different places, but I joined two of them in the United States extremely early on. And then just by luck and because my show was pretty good, just very quickly became like their best selling event, or one of their best selling events. And that just is like success breeds success kind of thing. Yep. So then I got so much business. And the crazy thing is, I wasn't doing any sales. It's like they were getting startup capital from VC companies to create and then hire a sales team to sell my business, and I was getting money. It was crazy.
So now you can just focus on the product. That's such a win.
It was. I mean, it was the craziest win of all time. I'm a Zoom success story, like you hear, like maybe you guys were too, but like it was just unfathomable sort of like business. Wow. And mostly because, I was like the startup capital were paying for a sales team to sell my product. It was ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like they put like millions of dollars into these companies to try and build a sales team to sell virtual events. All of that money went, it was lost, but a bunch of it went to me and other people like me, which was so crazy. Yeah.
But rightfully so. That's the way business is sometimes. Sometimes people with a lot of money invest in things that don't make money back.
Yeah.
And now that explains the being able to buy 5 Sony cameras for your
5 cameras. Show. Yeah. I mean, well, the cameras are like a couple $100 each. But yeah, I mean, there was 3 days in December 2020 when I did 10 shows a day for like businesses. There are 30 shows in 3 days for businesses. Getting like regular corporate rates that you get is insane.
Yeah.
That is insane, man.
Still corporate work then for the virtual?
Yeah, it was all corporate work.
And still, like you do a show a week, it's still corporate, I guess. You're doing a company.
There's a few more this month because it's like October, and some people want to do like an October happy hour,
Yeah.
But yeah, not that many.
And what about your performing schedule at the moment? Are you just focusing on the live shows, or are you doing corporate events as well?
Yeah, I do corporate events too. Basically, I do my shows Wednesday through Saturday, unless the venue has like a private event, like a business has booked it out for like a holiday party or something, or a wedding or something like that. Basically, if they can make more money doing that than they do my show, then they do that. And it's the same thing for me. If I get booked at a corporate event that makes me more money than my live show with advance, like a month or two out, then we just cancel the live show or find a substitute, and I do that. But I don't do, I got friends who like are on the corporate market like you guys, Nick and Josh. Doug, you said you don't do too much of that right now, but
gigs. Who needs them?
Who needs them?
Doug does a lot of lecturing. He travels around to magic.
Like I did gigs for 30 years, right? Yeah, so I'm just kind of done doing gigs. I'm like ready to do something that's not a gig.
Yeah. No, I don't love gigs, to be honest, because I'm spoiled with my live show. It's so easy to walk down to the theater, and my show's set up by my backstage team. and I go there like an hour before, and I'm back at 9:30. And
Can you answer my question now that you're talking about your team?
oh, sure.
Yes.
So I have a backstage team. I basically have like 3 people who are trained up to do the show, and that's like backstage team. And then we have like a lighting technician and a few lighting technicians who run the venue, who work for the venue, who know the show, so they have coverage. When we're doing like a bunch of shows every week, we have to get coverage because if someone's sick, we need to get there. We need to get someone else to do it, or if they just can't do it for whatever reason.
You have lighting tech during the show. You have sound guy.
Lighting tech during the show. The technician runs the lighting and the sound.
Yeah.
And it's like a full-on theater thing. It's like, we have like 3 people running concierge. And
do you use video elements?
We do. We do a live camera for just two acts of the show. There's one card act in the middle of the show that I do now. That's like it's basically Leonard Green's shuffle sequence into a poker hand, into poker deal, straight off of his DVD, and then one of his DVDs, and then I do a dice stacking routine on the camera, and then at the end of the show I have something else on camera that's very special. But I'm
always curious how people put camera work onto video in a theater. Can you talk about that for a second?
The only reason I'm doing all this stuff is because the venue supplies it. They didn't supply the camera, but they have a humongous screen that's like the size of the whole stage that comes down.
It's probably an old movie house, right? That's probably what it is.
It was an old movie house, and that's why they built it all new, but that's why they wanted to do that, because they wanted to show movies in the venue, maybe, for some reason. They were like, sure, we can get a screen. So the screen is literally the size of the proscenium, and so it just allows me to do some cool stuff that I otherwise wouldn't. And also, in a show that's 90 minutes, it's nice to have texture.
Yeah. Do you use that screen pre-show?
No.
Before the show starts?
Curtains closed. Yeah.
Gotcha. I'll talk about it off air. Anyway, and Nick, do you want to tease everyone about the review you have out at the moment?
Absolutely. Now, just for the sake of time, friends, we won't jump into a full review of this week's product, but I will make mention that if you want to see the full review, you can see it on the YouTube channel, which will be in the links of this YouTube video. And the product we're looking at is Glance by Steve Thompson. It is a really, really good, smart, affordable book test using a magazine with a few different cool methods. And ultimately, have a look at that review. You'll learn everything you need to know. And it's at a price point in which, if you ever thought book tests are a bit expensive, the cool thing about this one, for the price point, you get 2 magazines and you can achieve some really, really organic, awesome looking book test material using just those. And I think it's absolutely amazing for the price. But do yourself a favor, watch the full it's funny. It's actually quite funny. I put jokes in there. But yeah, go and watch the review. I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed. And of course, when you want to purchase it, make sure that, thanks to obviously Piper Magic, who sponsor our channel, make sure that when it comes time to purchase, that you do use discount code PiperGuys for any magic purchase that you need. It helps support us and supports our good friend, who I'm trying to beg to do another awesome magic convention. It would be great if Kevin came to that one as well, don't you think? But
yes.
Yeah. Maybe teaching us how he did that amazing card trick. That would be phenomenal.
So good.
Yeah. So the second time.
This made all 153 episodes worth it. That card trick. Yeah. How many episodes have we done? That was the best card trick.
Yeah, 141 it took to get that piece of wonder on screen.
Yeah.
Is releasing magic something you've thought about, Kevin?
Got nothing I want to release. I just am not. I figure I'm a curator, not a creator. So I'll take stuff and hopefully make it different or better, but not a creator. Sorry if it's me, if my internet's choppy, I'm not sure, but.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
Are you are you planning to go? Are you a Magic Live attendee? Is that something you're looking to do next year?
I went 2 years ago. I'd like to go again, but I had some gigs I think last year, so I couldn't make it. But I think I'd for sure like to go next time.
Yeah, we're all planning to be there next year. So hopefully our paths can align and we can do a chat in person.
Love that. Be great to have some more friendly faces in the audience. I only have a few magician friends. Now I have 3 more, but I only have a few, so it's nice to get into the industry a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you still doing writing as well for anyone, or is that just something you obtained to yourself?
I used to be a copywriter before I went full-time magic, working in advertising, writing a book. It's a fictional book, but
tell us more.
That'll be ready with the current amount of progress per year. It'll be ready in about 10 years.
Excellent.
I'm curious if you intend to do more social media work, because the stuff I looked at today was exceptional, and you're obviously good at it. Do you have an interest in following that at all?
Yeah, I do. I stopped because of the kid was born, but I do plan on doing that more. Mm-hmm. I think if I can get it up to a good number, then there's no downside.
The perceived values, that whatever that lady said, I think is true. You raise your rates. I mean, you're worth more. Yeah.
One video popped 1 million views. I mean, you can't ignore that, right?
I can see why. I mean, I watched your stuff today, and
you know why? Who's that video? That's Leonard Greed's material.
No, it's not that at all. Tricks don't matter.
Is Leonard? He is the legend.
How many times did you perform that Leonard Green routine before putting it on video?
I did it in my show for a few months.
Yeah. That's what matters.
And there's a little Ben Earl touch in there too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a
little bit worked.
Yeah, but yeah, the virtual the social stuff is really fun. And Doug, you're right. I think just forcing yourself to practice and do a trick is a lot more than you expect it to be. I think a lot of us, me personally, I just don't have a lot of material, and so just forcing myself to learn a new trick. I haven't done misled before. I mean, I did it, 2 decades ago, but practicing it so that you could do it is just a whole different thing.
What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to learn more material. You're going to be influenced by a few more slights. You're going to learn a new trick. There's nothing bad that can come from.
You write a fun story. You learn what it takes to memorize a script. No, there's nothing bad about it if you got the time for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of time, we've kind of hit the 1 hour mark, which we can chat to the cows come home. And, hopefully when we're opposite each other one day over a cup of tea or maybe even a martini, and my lights have died. It'll be a great chance. So I think it's probably about time we wrap things up. We can continue conversation outside of the podcast. But Kevin, would you be kind enough to take us home with the final word?
Absolutely. You rock. All right.
Thanks for listening.
Sorry. Hang on. Before we go off the live, was that the final word?
I was about to rock.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.